Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues, friends. Welcome to the first reflection webinar of the Daring Cities community, convened by ICLE, Local Government for Sustainability, and together with City of Bonn, which are the hosts of the Daring Cities Forum of Global Forum of Urban Leaders Tackling on Climate Change. My name is Yunus Arikan. I'm the Director of Global Advocacy at ICLE, Local Government for Sustainability, and I'm delighted to uh, take all the participants and the speakers of this 1 hour's webinar through a kind of an interactive dialogue. I will have some points from my side, but I have a brilliant lineup of our leaders. Some will intervene live, some will be having their interviews. Uh, and it will be an opportunity for us in this 1 hour to reflect what has been achieved in 2024 at the last climate conference, as well as the community of Daring Cities, this community that we have been building over the 5 years. We will also hear the introduction to the upcoming climate conference in Brazil in November, and how Daring Cities community will be engaged throughout this couple of months, including our in-person and virtual forums, but also our plans to introduce a new momentum at the local level through town hall COPs, and how this all fit to our overall advocacy. I assume all our participants have safely now logged into our connection now. I think our next slide is just a brief summary of the agenda, as I've just summarized. As I said, yes, we will have a brief opening remarks, which I will take the lead. Then we will be immediately giving the floor to Commissioner Bridget Shea from Texas, in the US, who has been a pioneering member of ICLE's leadership at the national and global levels. We will have her interventions about what was her feeling in Baku, but more importantly, how she had now taken up these efforts in the new realities of the United States leadership at the federal level, and how local and subnational leaders are taken forward. Then we will have a series of interviews prepared by ICLE South American Secretariat, my colleague Rodrigo Perpetuo, and we will have the COP30 President designate Andre Del Lago. We will have the Minister of Cities International Relations Advisor Ambassador Da Costa, and we will have the Mayor of Niterói, former Mayor of Niterói, and the current Vice President of FNP, Federation of National Front of Mayors. And then we will then proceed with our updates on from ICLE, especially the agenda of the LGMA constituency, how Daring Cities will shape, and then how we'll proceed with the town hall COPs, with my colleagues Johanna and Alisa helping me in this process. So let's go to the brief remembering, as we said, our distinguished leaders with their full titles that will be joining us, and we are also very happy that they will also be engaging throughout the Daring Cities agendas throughout the year, at the in-person meetings and virtual sessions as well. And through this opportunity, we thank all of them once again for their leadership. The next slide is also for us to I think remember that how we captured our achievements in the year in 2024 through our Daring Cities engagements. We are very happy our report is capturing this dynamic agenda, including just like we are doing today, the first couple of months and reflection, then focusing on the in-person Bonn dialogues during the UN Climate Conference, a virtual forum, 3 months, and concluding with our inputs and contributions to the UN Climate Conference in Baku, COP29. My colleagues have already been sharing in the chat box the link to our report for those who would like to recap what we have done in this session. So let's continue into our topic of today, which, just to recap, 3 months back, the world was discussing the climate agenda in 2024 in Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan. Let's see how the agenda shaped from the local and subnationals in this space. If we go to the next slide, this fills into an era of like spending from the 1992s onwards. So we are talking about the 30 plus years. Baku is in fact really the efforts of the last year of the fourth phase of our engagement in this 30 plus years. We had an era where we were recognized in this process, but through the Earth Summit, but we were not too much involved in the design of the UNFCCC and its implementation together with Kyoto Protocol. So starting from 2005, we were trying to make sure the new climate regime to be adopted in Copenhagen would be much more positive. That was our aim, to have recognition, engagement, and empowerment of local and regional governments. Copenhagen didn't deliver the results, and we have entered into the third phase to say that yes, there was a failure in Copenhagen, but we are here to correct this mistake. We are here to correct this multilateral process, and that's what we paid off with the Paris Agreement 6 years later, where we had the first recognition of all levels of governments in the Paris Agreement preamble. And immediately the fourth phase started, implementation of the first implementation through the national climate plans, but to numerous initiatives. Especially, we've made more and more progress on Glasgow with the recognition of the multi-level, the term multi-level action is introduced in Glasgow. Through the Sharm, Dubai, and Baku process, we have enormously improved ourselves with our national collaboration with the UNFCCC partners. We have initiatives on urbanization like Surge, the urban and climate ministerials, a champ for new climate plans in 2025, and a multi-stakeholder action pathway, which is bridging all these agendas together. If we go to the next slide, this was shaping our motivation in Baku. The slide shows us that all the information that you will see here is captured in our website of the LGMA constituency, the cities and regions who have been keeping their track over these years. You can also find our achievements in the previous years as well. If you go to the next slide, this was a capture of the family photo after the third urban and ministerial. But throughout the 2 weeks, we were there together with a large delegation of more than 500 leaders across the world, including 150 local and subnational leaders as well. So we had been engaged in the official UN climate negotiations through our interventions, our press conference, our statements in the ministerial dialogues. We had our pavilion, our home. We had been engaged with the Azerbaijan presidency, which demonstrated a fantastic leadership because they have introduced the urban agenda in the Leaders Climate Summit. We were, for the first time, a subnational leader speaking at the Leaders high-level opening. An initiative and Baku Urban Continuity Coalition with the third ministerial was announced. And throughout the Marrakesh partnership, we announced new announcements, new initiatives, such as the commitment for culture, stakeholder engagement on informality, and follow up on commitments on the Race to Zero, Race to Residence Sharm el Sheikh Adaptation Project program. We had other pavilions, especially like US, China, Japan, buildings pavilion, Brazil pavilion, Sweden, water. So that it is a plethora of the stakeholders hearing or welcoming local and subnational leaders. And finally, throughout these 2 weeks, we had our strategic meetings, daily briefings, and we had spread our words to the delegations. We had tabled our position papers into the language of the UNFCCC negotiations on various efforts, especially the mitigation work program, finance, adaptation, loss and damage, and global stocktake. Next. These are capturing our moments. We had daily briefings, our bulletins. We have interviews with our leaders. We had our statements available, and we had also captured our weekly coverage so that we knew Baku was difficult in terms of logistical participation. There were also overlaps with the G20 process, but we tried to make sure that leaders from Tokyo to California, from Istanbul to Tirana, from Lusaka to Turku, they were all present, and from Grande do Sul to as we will hear from Mayor Commissioner Shea from the U.S. leaders, we had raised the voice of citizens of nations in this process. Let's go to the next slide. In that sense, we were grateful for the co-hosts as ICLE and UN Habitat as the co-conveners of the pavilion, but our partners from Azerbaijan, the State Committee of Urban Planning and Agency, the Turkish Government Minister of Environment, the Zero Waste Foundation, the İl of Turkish government, and the Bloomberg Philanthropies, together with a line of impressive partners that made for 2 full weeks in the negotiations area the space for local and regional governments, which was witnessing numerous announcements and initiatives as well. So let's go to the next slide. I think we are now is the moment to hear from Bridget Shee, Commissioner from Travis County, Texas, United States, who is also the chair of the US board, who was passionate on the way to Baku, in Baku, and after Baku. Commissioner Shea, we know you have an advantage, exciting agendas, sometimes high, sometimes lows in your country, but let's take us from Baku onwards, how you have seen the atmosphere, what was your takeaways, and how you are now building on in this new realities in your country.
Thank you so much, Eunice, and I'm delighted to be here. And I really feel the need to preface my comments with a very brief comment on what's happening in the US at the moment. It's important for people to understand it was not an overwhelming majority who voted for the current president. It was about a third. About a third voted for the other candidate, and about a third stayed home. So we honestly are horrified at so much of what's happening. The retreat from science, the absolute rejection of international agreements, alliances, partnerships, the long history of the United States, providing some better leadership on the world stage. So, I mean, that's a huge context for what's happening in the United States, and we are all hopeful for changes in the midterm elections, and frankly, really trying to chart a path through what are incredibly chaotic times. And it is clear that the work of both ICLEI and of addressing climate change now falls to local and regional governments. So I think the work of ICLEI in the US is even more important, and also around the world. And in that regard, Baku was my seventh. I've been at this for a while. I first went in 1995 to the Berlin climate COP. And it's, to me, this is such an incredibly important forum. I do think it's unfortunate that we've now had 3 petrostates as hosts. It sends a very conflicting message to people who are just watching this from the sidelines, hoping that the world will figure out solutions and a path forward to reverse the impacts of climate change and to better prepare residents for the impacts of it. And so I'm really looking forward to the upcoming COP in Brazil, in the Amazon, where we'll have a clear demonstration and understanding of the importance of nature pathways and all of the work to advance the ball on climate. It's always incredibly enlightening to participate in the COPs. I come back, brimming with lots of insight and information from the pavilions, but also the opportunity to work with other local elected officials around the world. I tell people, the nations of the world alone can't solve this problem. We need all hands on deck. And to me, that's been the really significant work of ICLEI since 1992. So I'm honored to be part of this. We have just expanded our ICLEI USA board and added more mayors. So we're really excited about the opportunities at the local level going forward in the US. And I would just tell people, please don't judge us by the person in the White House. And thanks again, Eunice. Appreciate you letting me speak, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Shea. Indeed, these are the times where we need to demonstrate in transboundary solidarity that you are not feeling alone or you are not feeling left out. I think we also had also shared after Baku the devastating fires in Los Angeles. That was again a symbol that whatever happens at the political level, the climate disasters are on the doorsteps of every city, every community, and that needs us even more encouraged. One thing maybe we were discussing with the colleagues in the US, of course, our colleagues, but also the US partners. Yes, let's remember, yes, officially the new administration has officially submitted that they are removed. They are removing US from the Paris Agreement, but let's not forget the Biden administration in one of their last acts, they had presented the third nationally determined contribution of the US to the UNFCCC. According to the official records, this is still available, and this is one of the best practices that demonstrates multi-level action. Of course, there are now new legal, administrative, executive orders, but I think this is something that the U.S. cities will still embrace probably and try to uphold. Maybe if you can, as another, let's say, discussion in this debate. First of all, we really would like to welcome all the U.S. cities and states
Yeah.
in Belém, either in person, like you, to celebrate your 30th anniversary of UN climate conference and personally this time,
Yeah.
and the ICLE had, but also virtually. You will hear from our colleagues about the town hall COPs. We look forward to the spirit from the US cities. It is been inspired by the Earth Day, which is a legacy from US. But we also maybe think about because US will continue to be a global player in this process. For example, next year G20 officially will be in the US responsibility. Maybe US cities and states could also think about how to continue this dialogue next year onwards. Nobody knows, of course, what will happen in this between, but it's still that the good news is that the US cities and states are there. Maybe if you would like to share, I know you have time pressure that you do not have the chance to stay too long, but I would be very happy if you would communicate because the Brazilian leaders you will hear now that they are opening the doors to Belém to welcome US cities and states and other countries around the world, regardless of what's going on at the political level, which we know that is driven by other interests that was not too much in our control.
Yeah. Well, I think the gathering in the Amazon in Brazil will be incredibly important. And as the wonderful Brazilian representatives made clear at the ICLEI World Congress in Sao Paulo, they are having it in the Amazon for the express purpose of educating the world about the incredible importance of this lung of the world in the Amazon, and that the world has an obligation to help protect and preserve it. This shouldn't just be the sole responsibility of one country, that we all benefit from it, and so we all have to do some part in protecting and preserving it. So I think that'll be a really profound piece of COP30 in Belém, and I'm really looking forward to that whole process unfolding.
Another concluding comment because in Baku we were also very proud to launch ICLEI's initiative with the partners from the heritage community, the cultural heritage community, an initiative on culture. And we know, especially in Brazil, the indigenous people, the cultural elements of our relation with the earth and our communities, our places will be a hot topic. So ICLEI US will continue to bring the results, the work that the projects, what the work through their technical reporting tools, the guidance to communities, and then bringing these results of the project like cultural heritage and other elements. And now that's a topic that also speaks to your heart because of this transformation goes through the cultural values as very powerful element as well. So we look forward to engage you. And on the way, so that to bring the voices of the U.S. cities and states into the global efforts. In this year, we also will check with you whether you can join us in person in June in Bonn when the UN Climate Conference will convene. And we hope you or other ICLEI U.S. leaders will also be part of the journey towards and beyond Belém. And we'd like to thank you very much. We wish you the best of success to yourself, to your peers and leaders, to your staff in these difficult times. And we will continue to stay united and stay connected in this effort.
And
And
thank you,
maybe
Janice.
immediately before you leave, maybe we can then give the floor to our colleagues from the Brazilian leadership. It will be very, very, I think, also inviting for you to hear them directly. Our ICLEI South America director, Rodrigo Perpetuo, is helping us to convey their messages. Their interviews will be in Portuguese, in their national language, of course, but we are delighted that there is subtitles available. So let's hear from Rodrigo, Ambassador Dalago, Ambassador Soldas da Costa, and Mayor Grael, and feel free to join us until their session's over. So, Johanna or Kata, how you want to now lead the video? The floor is yours.
Olá, meu nome é Rodrigo Perpétuo, eu sou o secretário executivo do ICLEI para a América do Sul, e é uma satisfação apresentar esse painel sobre a COP30 na sessão Daring Seats sobre o que vem depois da COP29. Nesse painel, nós vamos ouvir o depoimento do presidente da COP, embaixador André Correia do Lago. Em seguida, nós escutaremos um depoimento do embaixador Antônio da Costa, chefe da assessoria internacional do Ministério das Cidades do Governo Federal Brasileiro. E, para finalizar, nós ouviremos o ex-prefeito de Niterói e atual líder de ação climática no Conselho Global do ICLEI, Axel Grael. Então, com vocês, o embaixador André Corrêa do Lago, presidente da COP30 no Brasil.
As cidades têm um papel absolutamente essencial no combate à mudança climática, porque a escala das cidades é uma etapa muito importante para que boas ideias e soluções possam ser testadas. Muitas vezes, o governo central só pode começar um programa se pode assegurar que todo o país possa seguir. Um país imenso como o Brasil e tantos outros, as cidades é que são o local onde as coisas acontecem, começam e são os exemplos que os outros podem seguir.
Muito importante esse depoimento do embaixador André Corrêa do Lago, reafirmando o compromisso brasileiro na perspectiva de integrar outros atores e, principalmente, valorizando a participação de prefeitos e prefeitas, a participação dos governos subnacionais na construção, na edificação da agenda da COP30, a COP da Amazônia, a COP de Belém. Agora nós vamos ouvir o depoimento e a intervenção do embaixador Antônio da Costa, chefe da assessoria internacional do Ministério das Cidades, que tem sido um grande parceiro, foi assim na COP29 de Baku, foi assim também na COP28 de Dubai, na COP27 de Sharm el-Sheikh, no sentido de integrar as agendas do clima com a nova agenda urbana, na perspectiva de materialização da agenda climática no contexto das cidades.
Essa parceria do Ministério das Cidades com o ICLEI na iniciativa Daring Cities, a gente considera super importante, porque ela faz parte de um conjunto de ações que o Ministério das Cidades tenciona levar a termo, de agora até a COP30, para dar sentido concreto ao nosso compromisso brasileiro, que está na nossa NBC, que foi divulgado no final do ano passado, relacionado, por um lado, com o federalismo climático, que é uma responsabilidade nossa relacionada com a Constituição, e de outro, eu acho que é super importante ter isso, com o nosso compromisso com a coalizão para a ação climática multinível, a chamada CHAMP. Eu acho que não basta apenas a gente aderir à declaração. Acho que a gente tem que ter iniciativas para dar sentido real a esse compromisso de engajamento multinível, do nível territorial para o nível federal, das cidades, municípios, prefeitos, câmaras municipais, com os vereadores, com os movimentos sociais da cidade, construindo uma agenda de resiliência climática, de adaptação climática e de contribuição à mitigação e às metas que o Brasil se colocou em direção a uma construção nacional. É dessa forma que o Ministério das Cidades encara esse exercício.
Agradecemos a intervenção do embaixador Antônio da Costa, valorizamos muito essa parceria do ICLEI com o Ministério das Cidades do governo brasileiro. Isso tem, de fato, promovido uma perspectiva de materialização, de intercâmbio de experiências da agenda climática no contexto também do desenvolvimento territorial urbano, tanto no eixo da mitigação, que dialoga com as políticas setoriais exatamente no campo dos transportes e da mobilidade, da gestão de resíduos, na perspectiva da energia no campo das cidades e também no campo da adaptação, aonde, de fato, as intervenções estruturantes para a habitação social, para a drenagem, macrodrenagem das cidades, também ganham uma repercussão e uma necessidade de integração vigorosa entre os diferentes níveis de governo. Então, agora nós vamos escutar a intervenção do ex-prefeito de Niterói, Axel Grael, que é também vice-presidente da Frente Nacional dos Prefeitos e, como eu mencionei anteriormente, lidera a ação climática no âmbito do Conselho Global do ICLEI.
Olá, eu quero fazer uma saudação a todos os participantes do Daring Cities, um encontro da maior importância para se fazer o debate sobre essa transição para a sustentabilidade e para os avanços na agenda do clima. Eu participei do último encontro que aconteceu em Bonn e eu quero falar para vocês que nós estamos num ano super importante no Brasil, porque nós receberemos a COP30 aqui em Belém do Pará. Nós estamos acompanhando todos os preparativos que está sendo feito para receber todas as delegações mundiais que vão se encontrar aqui. Há uma grande expectativa, porque essa conferência será aquela em que nós vamos renovar os NDCs. Então, é muito importante que essa conferência seja bem sucedida. Nós vivemos um ambiente, uma conjuntura política que nos preocupa, mas nós sabemos que a força de todas a mobilização dos países para que a gente avance na agenda do clima é fundamental. Aqui no Brasil, nós estamos acompanhando vários lançamentos de políticas importantes federais na área climática e há uma grande mobilização das cidades também. Uma realidade hoje no Brasil é o que nós chamamos do federalismo climático, porque as políticas públicas na área do clima são todas desenvolvidas com a participação das 3 instâncias de governança do nosso país, a instância federal, os estados e as cidades. Eu faço parte da Frente Nacional de Prefeitos e também do ICLEI, e nós temos trabalhado muito para organizar as cidades para que a participação dos governos locais seja cada vez mais efetivo, que com isso a gente possa promover as mudanças que são necessárias para que a gente chegue a um futuro próximo a uma realidade climática de muito mais resiliência e adaptação. Então, é com isso que eu me despeço de vocês, desejando que o encontro seja muito bem sucedido. Um abraço.
Muito obrigado ao ex-prefeito Axel Grael, nosso parceiro nessa caminhada de preparação para a COP30. Da parte do ICLEI América do Sul, dizer para todos vocês que nós estamos muito ansiosos, muito energizados para recebê-los novamente no Brasil, para ter vocês como parceiros no processo de preparação para a COP30, para que a conferência possa cumprir as suas promessas, não só de receber contribuições nacionalmente determinadas mais ambiciosas, mas também de ampliar a parceria e a aliança CHAMP, que coloca no seio dessas NDCs a agenda urbana e valoriza e dar protagonismo na agenda climática para as instâncias subnacionais de governo. Esse é o nosso propósito, promover de fato um fortalecimento da ação multinível na COP30 para que a gente possa de fato avançar com cidades melhores, com cidades com menos emissões de gases do efeito estufa e com cidades mais preparadas para enfrentar os eventos extremos da natureza. Muito obrigado e até a próxima.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you, Ambassador Delago. Thank you, Ambassador da Costa. Thank you, Mayor Grael. This was an excellent demonstration of how this this one of the most important moments where we will be witnessing in is in the hands of a country where whole of society, whole of government approach is embedded in all levels of governments, all levels of leaders. Ambassador Dalago has been a negotiator since the beginning of the UNFCCC. He's representing the voice of the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Antonio da Costa is representing an important ministry which is unique for Brazil, which is the Brazilian Minister of Cities, which is showing that the policies is an important element. Is the Minister of Cities is playing in this process. And that the different levels of different spaces spheres of government are united, and that's exactly the logic of also the way that the Brazilian government has been designing the whole process, interagency collaboration, and they are together with their cities. And in fact, these two interviews with Ambassador da Costa and with Ambassador Delago was part of the event of the new mayors forum in Brazil, which was convening all the newly elected leaders of leaders of the Brazilian cities, which was a result of the election, but they started their job this year. And that meeting was attended by the President of Brazil, President Lula, and the whole leadership of COP30 presidency, from Ambassador Dalago to Anatoni and Minister Filho and Ambassador Silva, was with the mayors who were involved in this process. And Mayor Grael was the bridge, as you have heard from him, that as a result, this climate federalism did not come from top down, but as a result of the work of the FNP, other partners, the CHAMP partners. So in this sense, we are literally being joyfully welcomed by a presidency, and that's how we now would like to respond to this process. So here, let's continue our how we will prepare for such an ambitious agenda in Brazil. Definitely. If you go to the next slide, the debates in Brazil will be a combination of the outcome from both Dubai and Baku. So that's this continuity of this COP28 and COP29 outcomes. We know the outcomes in Dubai was impressive, game-changing. The focus in Baku was focusing on finance. There had been a decision on finance, which has elevated the scale of climate finance, but it is less than what we have been hoping for. But even more importantly, the political changes after the COP is even putting us in a situation where we may not even be achieving the practical these commitments committed by the global north and global south countries, because many of the countries, as we heard from Commissioner Shida, they are backtracking, they're going back to their own reality. So what is our mandate, or what is our plan, how to make sure when we reach to Belém our results are saving our communities, saving our climate, saving our environment, and giving us the way forward. So let's go to this next slide, in the sense that first of all, under these realities, the road to Pelham is equally important, at last, if not more important, than being present in Belém. We will be discussing this, what will it look like in the next slide. But here, our first message is that all the local leaders, and I'm delighted to see in this chat box, from Mozambique to Ulaanbaatar, from the U.S. cities to cities in Sweden, or colleagues in Tanzania, in Africa, they are all sharing this momentum. So the first message is that this is the year where nations are bringing their national plans. So your mandate starts already at home. Talk to your capitals, talk to your ministries, so that the new climate plans should be collaboratively prepared. The second mandate under this journey is that mobilize yourself at your local level. Town hall COPs, you will hear from my colleagues, and make sure that your associations connected to the LGMA so that we intervene in the discussions on the way around. So, road to Belém is equally important. The next message from our side is our mission to be preparing ourselves is that the Belém is an atmosphere that we have not seen before. If you go to the next slide, we would be feeling the Belém spirit of for climate federalism. You have heard that the Brazilian government is trying to use this as a turning point that for a historic more for multi-level action and urbanization in the COP history. We enjoyed in Glasgow, Sharm el Sheikh, Dubai, and Baku, but here in Belém, we should be prepared for elevating this into and leapfrogging into a new level. We are prepared for a bigger space of stage for multi-level action under the Cities and Regions Hub, with the Minister of Cities as a core partner, along with ICLE and UN Habitat and other partners coming on board. It will be having an even more powerful agenda. We in the negotiations will aim to make sure that this commitments of climate finance is operationalized and it goes to the urban finance. The reality is that we are hearing many governments are shifting their development agenda or climate funds towards their budgets for defense budgets in the wake of a new global conflicts evolving. We have to make sure that this money should not be in the cost of the climate finance. That's the second thing we have to push at home and in Belém. And in Belém, in the COP of Amazonas, we should be expected to have more contribution to the topics that is coming onto the table. The food, we are going to a gastronomic capital of Brazil, to Belém. We have to think about informality, the role of urban poor, but more importantly, the indigenous people, how they contribute at the local and national level. How nature will play a role in helping us to meet our climate targets, and how Amazonas, the urban communities of Amazonas, how they are making a different way of urbanization so that the Amazonians' natural resources are protected and preserved for the future and current generations. And here's the third part of our process. So the Belém spirit, we will continue, but we have to be aware Belém will be the kickoff of the beginning of a new era. So the delivering of this climate ambition action is even more important because the world is changing. We are prepared for a fragmented world. The global coalitions are destroying itself. It's a multipolar world. It can offer new opportunities. It's in a boiling world. We are literally about 1.5 degrees. We are seeing a world that is distracted. They are not talking about climate. Even in the global north, even in the countries like Germany, the climate debate is back in the lowest priorities of the agendas. And like it or not, unfortunately, most of our resources are going for the defense budgets. We are going for an armed world, which is giving us alarm bells that our resources are used for weapons that is destroying us, and instead they should be spent for people to preserve prosperity. Under this condition, Belém will be the next 5 years. We'll open the next 5 years. It's the last 5 years of the SDGs as well. So if we can make sure the climate, land, nature could be connected in a circular world, that will then give us the chance that the climate plans are real and they are preserving to the communities. I see in the chat box so many discussions about soil, so many discussions about protecting earth. This is exactly what the new climate plans should look like. There will be the moment where the scientific community will bring new information through the science special report on cities. So after Belém, we will also enjoy that information helping us. And finally, we are prepared to a new world. We are aware the multipolar world is also opening doors for decentralized connection, more interconnected through the data and digitalization and community-driven innovation. That is exactly what we need. We are seeing so many good examples, and that's what the town hall COPs will bring us. How this agenda then translates to the community of the daring cities that is present here and more across throughout the process that we will be working together. Johanna, I would like to invite you to take us through how Daring Cities is designing itself in the next couple of months. The floor is yours.
Great, thank you. I was just unmuting myself there. Thanks so much, Eunice. And thanks to the speakers who've already reflected a little bit today. This is our first part of the Daring Cities program is Reflect. So thank you to all of you, of course, for joining as well. After today, we have one more Reflect touch point. So this is coming in on the 9th of April. So we'll put the registration in the chat for you and hope that all of you can join us for this forward-looking opportunity to reflect on the road towards COP30. Just moving to the next slide. And the next one after that, I think, will launch us into Exchange. So Exchange is really a core component where everyone can come together to share knowledge. And it will kick off from the 16th to 18th of June with the Bonn Dialogues. This takes place in parallel to the SB62, so the Bonn Climate Talks that happen annually. On the 16th of June, we'll have the LGMA preparatory meeting. This will be an important touch point for LGMA, as Eunice already sort of alluded to there. Then on the 17th of June, we move inside the UNFCCC, and we'll have meetings including on the CHAMP initiative, including on the Marrakesh partnership. And then in the evening, there'll also be an opportunity for a Daring Cities Bonn Dialogues reception. On the 18th of June, we have a full day, full program organized for all of you. So it will take place at the GIZ. We'll have high-level panels with leaders on the climate emergency who will talk about multi-level action and ambitious NDCs. And we'll also have roundtables focused on research and business and innovation. And that full day will be live streamed. So hopefully all of you can join us, or you can catch the recording, which of course will be made available afterwards. Then moving to the next slide, we'll move into our virtual forum. This is a core component of Daring Cities, which many of you in the community are, of course, familiar with. Some form of this has existed since Daring Cities iteration in 2020, first iteration. This is where technical level representatives come together, they share knowledge, and find solutions that work for them in their local context. This is also available online to everyone, and registration and program details will follow. Going on to the next slide, we have the last section of Daring Cities, and this is Advocate. This happens from October to November. It's our last run up towards COP30, our last opportunity to share Daring Cities messages, to share our leadership on the climate emergency, and to advocate for local regional governments within the international climate space in that lead up to COP30, which is then taking place in November. So with all of that in mind, we encourage you to follow us on LinkedIn, to subscribe to our newsletter. This is the best way to really make sure you're getting those program updates and progress updates right into your inbox. You can also check out our website, daringcities.org, where our updates will be posted as more information gets released. So thank you all for your time. And with that, I will pass it back to you, Eunice.
Johanna, indeed, this is demonstrating that Daring Cities community will continue to follow, but also to contribute and lead. As you have seen, the discussions that we have been discussing in this space for pushing climate emergency into the priorities, pushing multi-level action onto the space, the need for knowing more, acting better, and leading together is the principles that we have been all asking for the past 5 years. We are now seeing that with the new climate plans coming up, it's shaping up, and therefore it's even more responsible for us to continue to keep the momentum, to keep the ball rolling around. In that, especially on the 9th of April, as Johanna mentioned, we will share with you. We are in touch with a number of partners some of them are already part of this webinar. We are seeing there's updates. How will they contribute our shaping of the discussions in Bonn? We will share with you the detailed agenda on these 3 days, but also we will continue to work with them. And your inputs into this chat box and this question will also help us to shape this forum together. Exactly these questions, for example, I see from Deepanjana saying that how can climate community across the world can call us and reflect a positive change in spite of the leadership crisis, and thank in that sense, I think we are making a fantastic segue to our next speaker, my colleague Alissa, because we are saying that the national results or national elections may be triggered by so many different inputs and drivers. Sometimes we may not be controlling with all these deep fakes and all these the agendas that fragmenting us. But at the local level, we know from the north and south, from the east and west, from the red to blue, the agenda is same. The people are trying to take control of their activities so that they can live in a better climate, they can live in a better city, and they can live in a much better, just transition to a new civilization. And how can town hall COPs can help us to trigger this? Alissa, the floor is yours. How can we make use of this new momentum?
Thanks, Eunice. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Alyssa Chanot, and I lead the climate action team here at ICLEI's World Secretariat here in Bonn, Germany. We're really excited to share this new opportunity with our Special Daring Cities community here today. Today, we're previewing this new initiative that we're calling Town Hall COPs. We believe climate action, requires us to bridge communities and global climate efforts and push for inclusive, bold local action. And that's really just what we aim to do with this initiative. Next slide, please. So there are several factors that make this initiative particularly timely and why ICLEI is uniquely positioned to lead well in this initiative. First, we have the fact that the average global warming compared to pre-industrial levels has already exceeded 1.5 degrees Celsius, and we need, as all the stakeholders involved, to prepare for this new reality. Secondly, the deadline for countries to submit their updated NDCs has been extended to September, which provides us additional opportunity for subnational contributions. Additionally, we've now reached a total of 75 countries that have endorsed CHAMP, and these countries are actively seeking ways to implement their commitments for multi-level climate action. We know we've heard today some of the challenges in our new political environment and challenges of weakened multilateral processes. We believe that we can turn this into an opportunity for local and regional governments to be acknowledged as indispensable partners for national governments and all other actors committed to a sustainable future. Also, as ICLEI, we're building off our successes within the Talanoa dialogues in 2017 and more recently in 2023, our local stocktake processes. And these really proved a need and also the expertise of ICLEI and LGMA to assist and elevate the feedback to the national and global level. It's also important that we view this as a continuous approach. This year, we're focusing on updating the national climate plans, but we all know implementation, action on the ground is equally important, and that's what we would focus on with these town halls going forward. And finally, this provides an opportunity to bring COP home. No international travel needed, and elevate the voices of our cities, towns, and regions to the global level. Next slide. So what makes Town Hall COPs different than any other meeting that you've had before? Simply stated, we view Town Hall COPs as a whole of society, multi-level exchange initiative that strengthens national climate plans and supports ambitious climate action implementation. We focused on three elements that we feel make this different. That we focus on diverse, community-centered approach to building who's in the room. That's guided by ICLEI's people-centered pathway. We're well-equipped to guide cities, towns, and regions in how they engage all different kinds of stakeholders, especially the most marginalized in communities. Our second point, focusing the entry point in engagement on national climate plans and on updating and implementing these plans ensures that all levels of government are working together to support bold, ambitious climate action. And finally, ICLEI will guide the discussion in these meetings through a toolkit that we're developing that's based on the expanded climate agenda to address and transform root causes of the climate emergency, such as housing, mobility, energy, water, land use, health, nature, food consumption, affordability, jobs, culture, and justice. Next slide, please. So time is of the essence. With the NDC submission deadline in September, in order to have the highest likelihood of influencing submission, we encourage holding a town hall COP as early as possible, all the way through September when the climate or the national plans are due. It's important to co-create the agenda with diverse stakeholders and invite not only local stakeholders, but include national stakeholders to build and participate in the meeting agenda when appropriate. And don't worry, we won't leave you to do this all on your own. You will have support from ICLEI. We're working on a toolkit to guide how best to plan, facilitate, and share the insights for your town hall COP to ensure it's beneficial for all participants involved. There will be some participation or preparation for city, town, and regions to do to be able to present the current climate plans, targets, or initiatives, and to guide the discussion for what needs to be prioritized for the future, and for the discussion to guide around priorities as well as possible solutions and support from various stakeholders. So there's multiple benefits for the local governments also involved in organizing these town hall COPs. And we'll work together to capture this information, to share with your national government, and to share with us so that we can elevate it through our activities and our presence at the COP30 Cities and Regions Hub. Next slide. So you'll be in good company by hosting a town hall COP. We're already in conversations with several cities, towns, and regions that are interested in getting a head start or hosting their town hall COP. We're working with Sydney, Australia to host theirs on March 13th. We also already are working with Riverside, California in the US, who's interested in holding one as well. Also, through these early ones that are happening, we'll be gaining lots of learnings, and we'll share those with any future cities, towns, or regions that come on board that happen later in the year. So if this sounds like something you're interested in learning more about, you can join our next webinar. You can go to the next slide. To learn more about, we'll be sharing more information, some insights from Sydney, and help you kind of envision what this could look like a little bit more in your local community. We're officially launching this initiative on April 22nd, which is Earth Day. We'll be then launching a registration page where you can register your event. More information will be available, access to the toolkit, and we'll also have more information available then about any potential financial support available to support communities interested in joining this initiative. But in the meantime, if you'd like to connect early and express your interest or ask any clarifying questions, you can email us now at daringcities@iclei.org. We'd be so pleased to hear from you. We really firmly believe that town hall COPs will be an effective tool in equipping local and subnational governments to align their communities for action and influence national governments for ambitious climate plans. We hope you'll join us in this collective effort to continue to push for bold, ambitious climate action at every level. So thanks for your time for today, and I will turn it back over to Johanna for a few minutes of question and answer before the end of our time here together. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Johanna. Thank you, Alisa. It's really exciting to see how we will be kicking off this journey from today onwards from under the Daring Cities. I remember in my presentation, I skipped the global calendar. Maybe while having the last couple of minutes of this webinar, we can go back to this year-round calendar that shows where our Daring Cities and Town Hall COPs fit into this global agenda. As you have seen, this is the calendar that we are sharing with the global networks of local governments in the climate process, which is the LGMA constituency. You can see those in the yellow lines are the events that are going outside the UN space. The ones in blues are the ones under the UN, let's say, mandate and UN procedures, and the green ones are the events that we are going through under the initiatives of the local and regional governments and their networks. You may have seen we had these meetings like in Brasilia. A month before, we were in Cuenca, and we were in Africa for the urban shift in Nairobi. What we are seeing in April, we will see a growing momentum because of the Earth Day, as you have heard. In June, there will be several UN meetings like Ocean Conference, Finance Conference, and especially the June session of the UN climate talks, which is the last pit stop before going to Belém. And there, Bonn will be playing a key role because of the daring cities and our discussion with the UN negotiators. In the rest of the year, we have less hectic agendas in the UN space. There are several meetings like high-level political forum, but we are all aware there are not too much mechanisms that will be important as much as important as Brazil, because that Brazil meeting is the place where will the national plans will be discussed and shared. Yes, there is an official soft deadline in September, but we know the climate negotiations enables any country to submit any NDC. This is for good and for worse. Therefore, throughout the year, we can now use most of our efforts to influence these outcomes. And throughout the year, we will be expecting to have some meetings like the meetings of the climate negotiators or ministers of urbanization in Nairobi in May. We will also see how the agendas in several countries will shake their processes. We have already seen how things are evolving in the US and Germany. We're expecting Canada, Australia to come up. There will be elections at the local and regional level, like Philippines, Senate elections. But this time, we will also see how the global agenda will shape, like the G20, how they will shape up this process, including G7 as well. So while we will see what the agenda will look like before Belém, at the town halls, we will make sure we will stick to climate agenda. We will stick to the survival of our livelihoods, survival of our planet will be in the hands of local and regional governments with an contribution to their national plans. That is the priority of this year, and we will make sure their citizens will capture all these efforts. I see 2 minutes left. Johanna, do you think there's any points that we need for further clarification? I see so many messages from colleagues sharing their updates, sharing their enthusiasm. We look forward to engaging you. I think there was a question that we tried to shape that the answer to the more we hear bad news, the more we need to present good news from the local level, and that national governments hear this and they are not influenced by other areas, but rather the positive agenda from the local level on climate emergency is coming to the space. Kata, do you think there's any point that I should raise? I know Commissioner Shi has left us. I know Alyssa's here, Johanna's here. If you would like to share any closing remark, feel free to add. But we are more or less closing our session today.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, Yunus. I think you've covered everything really well.
There were questions about the presentation. Just to remind ourselves, will they receive an email after this? I think in the next couple of days from the
Yeah,
daring cities.
we can certainly send a follow-up.
Exactly. And mark your calendar for the 9th of April, again at 4 p.m. We will then present more details about what it would look like, the daring cities exchange sessions. We will hear more updates from the presidency, the Brazilian presidency, and how we'll shape it. And we will be able to hear how to be ready for the town hall COPs and even then stepping up, register your cities initiatives. We will be checking with our colleagues from Sydney so that they can share their experience and others to come on board. And starting from 22nd of April, we will make that global map nourishing with town hall COPs, hopefully decades, dozens, hundreds, if not thousands, hopefully sometime in future, to show that local action is shaping the national and global agenda as well. With this, I think we've come to the end of our session. Thank you so much for all your interest, with your contributions, with your enthusiasm. We'd like to thank the Brazilian presidency for their leaders joining us, Commissioner Cher, and all my colleagues and ICLE who have made this possible, and all of you who have demonstrated that we are not alone, that we are representing your voice and your voices are heard, and you can interact internally as well with all your communications. Have a nice day, have a nice evening, and we'll stay tuned.